Hello, my name is Michael, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first real attempt at this. I've kind of thought about it for years, I guess, and I've posted various videos over the year. You know, I've never really tried to make videos like this. I thought maybe some people would find some of my cars interesting. You know, I have, I guess, really 3 cars that I work on all the time. One being this Evo 9 right here, which is kind of the first project on the channel, so to speak. I also have a K-swapped FRS and a turbo BMW, which actually blew up today, but I don't want to get into those 2 cars right now. I kind of just wanted to jump into the Evo 9 first. So a little background on this car. I've had this car for, I think, a little over a year. I bought it up in Pennsylvania, flew up there, drove it home. Been through a lot with this car in the last year. Now, this is actually not my first Evo. I owned an Evo 10 for about 8 years. And a lot of people online kind of know me by that car. I took that car I bought that car brand new in 2015. Took it from stock all the way to 900 horsepower. Went through a bunch of motors, transmissions, different setups. I ended up selling that car earlier this year just because I was kind of tired of it. After, you know, the last motor blew, I ended up snapping a rod bolt. I felt like I was done. And then right after that car blew up, I had a bunch of issues with this car. So that kind of motivated me to part out that car and sell it. But I might end up, I'll throw a picture of what that, you know, kind of what that car looked like at the very end. I mean, it was making close to 900 wheel at the very end. It was a pretty fast car. I mean, if you're familiar with like draggy times, it did like I think a 4.7, 60 to 130 on a stock synchro trans. So it was a pretty quick car for an Evo, especially for an Evo 10. You know, hasn't been really that many Evo 10s in the 4s, but maybe I'll do a montage video of that, or montage of that car someday. We'll see. But anyways, I wanted, you know, the purpose of this video is kind of an introduction to the channel, an introduction to this car and what I'm planning to do on this car. So like I said, I got this car a little over a year ago. Car was great for a couple months. It was a pretty simple setup. It was a 2-3 stroker with an FP red and then just some basic fuel mods. And it made like 400 and something horsepower when I picked it up. It was just on 93. Shortly after I bought it, I ended up putting it on M-tron ECU and putting it on E85 and turning it up a little bit. And that was pretty fun for a while. But then I ended up having an issue where the car wouldn't start one day. And what ended up happening is the clutch actually came apart and pieces of the clutch, I made the flywheel lock up. So the crank locked up. So the motor locked up. And I thought I blew the motor at first, after a bunch of diagnosing, that's kind of the conclusion we came to. But that motor was, I mean, it had some miles on it. I think it had around 20,000 miles on that 2-3 stroker, which isn't a ton, and it really was only making like 450, 500 horsepower. But it was burning oil pretty bad, and the oil was always pretty sludgy. So I kind of made the decision at that time to go ahead and refresh that motor and kind of change the setup a little bit. And like I said, that was probably 4 or 5 months after owning the car, which wasn't ideal. And that was right after my Evo 10 blew up. So it was kind of a bunch of crap was happening at once. But after I got that car back, I ended up actually upgrading the FP Red to a AGT 57 turbo, which is still stock frame, which I actually have over here. It's for sale. So I ran that setup for a while. That was pretty fun. It made like 570 on a Mustang dyno. So like close to probably 650 dyno jet. But now the plan is to put on a V-band setup turbo. I bought an ETS V-band kit, which is over here. Just waiting on the turbo still. So that's kind of the first project right now. I already took the old, you know, turbo off, obviously, which I didn't record. I probably should have didn't decide I was going to do YouTube until now. So I guess to kind of go over a little bit of the other mods that are on this car. Obviously, I already talked about the turbo setup and the turbo setup that we're going to. Once I get the new turbo in, I will talk more about the turbo setup, and I plan to make some videos of installing the new turbo kit. But as far as other mods that are on this car, and some things are getting changed, so it still has a 2.3 stroker. The only thing we really changed besides refreshing the motor, you know, we got new bearings, new piston rings. I think we ended up changing, did we change the valves? No, it still has the same valves, but we ended up changing the valve springs, which I don't even know what valve springs it has in it. I think Keegley, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's still 2.3 stroker. It's like 9.5 to 1 compression, so nothing crazy. As far as other things related to the turbo kit, it has a DI fab intercooler piping on the cold side, titanium. That's all by Darren at DI Fab. He's a great dude. He kind of customized this cold side for me by adding a couple more fittings. It has a VSRF intercooler, which came with the car. Seems to be okay. I mean, we had a little bit of fitment issues with intercooler piping because the way this angles was a little bit different than a lot of intercoolers on these cars, but we got that worked out. And then the rest of the intercooler piping is from the ETS turbo kit, which once we install that, we'll go over it. For fuel, so this car currently has 1650cc injectors. I think they're either Fick or Demonic maybe. But those are actually getting switched out for some DW 2200s, which I have over here in a box. And then for fuel pump, it has a brushless Fuel Lab 500 liters per hour fuel pump. We're going to kind of see what that can make. And that was one of the motivations on switching injectors, is so I didn't have to raise the fuel pressure so much. We think that fuel pump might be able to do 700 on a Mustang dyno, which would be sick. I haven't seen a lot of in-pump or in-tank fuel pumps do that. So I'm really looking forward to see how that does. And I have my garage shut right now because it's cold outside, but I'll put a picture on how that's all wired and the way the fuel pump setup looks like. And then it has just like a custom exhaust that was made by the previous owner. It's a 3.5-inch exhaust from the test pipe back. Right now we currently have Kelford 272 cams, but I'm also going to Kelford 280R cams with the new turbo setup, just to kind of see what those do. We had a theory that the 57 mil turbo was maxed out a little early because of the cams. We felt like maybe the cams needed more cam for the 2.3, and we were going to actually try to do the cams first, but I got antsy because the turbo kit came in, so I just tore it all apart so I can try to sell the old turbo kit. And then for drivetrain, it has just a stock Evo 9 trans. It's been refreshed recently. And then an X clutch, twin disc clutch. Rear end is stock. I think it was restacked by the previous owners to lock up a little bit better, but I can't confirm that. And then, like I said, I put this car on an M-Tron ECU, which is a great ECU. It's not super known here in the States, but the Evo shop that I work with loves them, and it seems to be pretty good. I mean, it has a ton of features. From what I'm seeing, it seems very comparable to Motec, but a lot cheaper. And they really like it, so it seems to be pretty good. I did switch this car to drive-by-wire. So it has a Bosch throttle body. No longer has the drive-by cable, and it has an Evo 10 pedal, which I actually need to replace because I was having some drive-by-wire, some pedal position issues, which I'll probably make a video on doing that. And there's a couple other like small things I wanted to do in the car in that video as well. And then other mods on the car, this car does have pretty much full upgraded suspension. I mean, you can see it's on some RPF 1s, which I think are 17x9. Has some Kumho V730 tires. It is on silver Neomax coilovers. And then white line front and rear sway bars. And then pretty much all the bushings in the drivetrain have been upgraded or replaced. Like I have the white line control arm bushings in the front. And it also has Volk Metalworks rear camber arms and tow arms, which are pretty high quality piece. I mean, there's some small bits, like I have an STM coolant overflow. What is this? A CFF radiator, so it moves the coolant hose over like the Evo 5 style. Kind of gets it away from the manifold, because normally they'll come out here and go around. That came with like a fan shroud too that I installed. It's got a custom catch can the previous owner did. I did miss some things on the fuel. It has a radium fuel pressure regulator. You can see back there. I think I'm only running -6 lines, feed and return. But the Fuel Lab fuel pump is actually in a bulletproof hanger as well. We had to modify the hanger a little bit because the Fuel Lab pump is a little bit thicker than the Walbro that people normally put in those hangers. So we had to cut up the hanger a little bit to get it to fit, but it wasn't a big deal. It seems to be fine. It has JDC coil pack kit, which I believe just runs the GTR coils. Some people have some issues with them, but they've been fine on this car so far. I have some other JDC bits as well, like the titanium manifold studs. There's some more JDC titanium just all over the car. It's kind of, once you start buying titanium bits, it's kind of hard to stop. I mean, that's kind of what happened with the intercooler piping as well. So with the ETS kit, I am actually going to try to reuse my old intake, which is a titanium intake also from DI Fab. Really nice intake. I'll try to reuse that. I'll talk more about the kit when we go to install it. I'm just waiting on the turbo right now, which is going to be a AGT 6262 turbo, but that's really it for most of the mods on the car. The interior of this car is pretty stockish. I have like an upgraded WK shifter, which I had to cut up the shifting console to do that. It does have a keypad. I know it's kind of dark in there right now, but I can show more of that later. So this car actually has cruise control because of the M-Tron and the keypad. It's pretty nice for those people that love cruise control like me. Some gauges. So this car is actually wrapped and it's silver underneath. And a couple months ago, my house got hit with a hailstorm pretty bad, and this car was outside when it happened. I don't know if this is going to show up on video, but it got hit by hail pretty bad, which is really unfortunate. It cracked my windshield. And because the car is wrapped, I can't just PDR it. And I don't know what the paint looks like underneath, but the previous owner told me that paint was pretty rough shape. So I got paid by insurance, and I would love to repaint this car eventually, probably stay white, because I just feel like a white Evo is the best, but that's just my opinion. This car still does retain ACD as well. You can see the pump right there. Oh, the other thing I forgot is, so we deleted the OEM power steering and went to an electric power steering. So this car has an electric power steering motor, which is all this right here is this wire and hoses that run back there. And really the reason I did that is because the old power steering pump was whining, and my Evo shop was like, hey, we could switch it to electric power steering. So we did. It feels great. I think it could use a controller and have a little bit of tuning, because at like speeds like backing out of my driveway, it needs a little bit more pressure, it feels like. And then at like high speeds, say interstate plus speeds, it's a little bit loose, so it probably needs less pressure. And I know you can like buy a controller and program some of that, and I might do that eventually. It's okay right now, but it's not too bad. So that's it for mods. I'm sure there's some things I'm forgetting, and maybe we'll get into some more of that once we install this turbo kit. So I guess that's it. If you're interested in some of the things I'm working on, like I said, I have some other cars I would like to introduce to this channel eventually as well. This is my girlfriend's Subaru. Yep, I know we have an Evo and a Subaru. That car is pretty much just like a bolt-on car. Don't really have many plans for it. We bought some wheels for it that are going to be put on here soon, but I guess that's it. If you're interested in some more, just like, comment, and subscribe, I guess. That's what YouTubers say, right? But have a good night.